Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, one of the podcasts that is part of the Oakbridge High AV Club. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Monica Wolfkill. Monica, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm
Absolutely.
excited to talk to you.
I'm so excited you came. I'm just kind of slowly making my way through all of the Oakbridge cast and crew, and I'm super, super excited.
Well,
Um,
good. I'm excited too.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm getting my notes together. Just skipped way far ahead. There we go. Okay. So this part of the show, I like to start with an icebreaker question. So today's icebreaker question is, what is your favorite decade and why?
Oh, my favorite decade and why? That's a tough one.
That is a
Darn,
tough
I wish
one.
you'd have told me that one before. I could have thought about it. Um, it's funny because there's different ones, I guess, for different reasons. Like
Sure.
the music, I would have to say the 80s. I loved 80s music.
Agreed.
But I have to say probably the early 1900s. I know that sounds weird. But I did a play that was set in that time frame, and it was just like such culture shock to see how things were back then.
No,
And I think it's just an interesting time and where we've come from since then. So I guess that yeah,
that's
the
a good
80s for
answer.
music, the 1900s for history, I guess.
Very
Yeah,
cool. That's a great answer.
yeah.
I have to say for myself, I would say probably the 90s. Um,
Okay.
I was a kid of the 90s. I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s. Lots of really fun stuff. There's nothing like trips to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or whatever, just some stuff that the kids
Yeah.
nowadays have no idea what we're talking about. But
Radio
this,
Shack.
yeah, they'll never appreciate that or even understand like why it was so cool or, you know,
Yeah.
trying to run to the kitchen during commercials to grab a snack and get back before your show comes back on. Just kids don't appreciate that stuff. It was
Well,
a
and
time.
being home when the show was on.
Yeah. Or
Like if
like,
you missed it, you missed it.
yep, or you don't know when it would come on again. You can't just queue it up and do it. And I tried explaining that to my kids, and they're just like, that's how that's ridiculous. And just,
Yeah.
just the music, the stuff that happened, just before kind of really before technology, really, you
Yeah.
you go out to play with your friends, you come home when the lights go off or the lights come on the streets, you know what
Mhm.
house your friends are at because that's the house where all the bikes are at. Just that kind of just fun, crazy stuff, or just going out and using your imagination, just
Yeah.
going outside and playing, which doesn't seem to be as much of a thing anymore, really. But
Mm-mm.
times are different now, and there's a lot more scary out there than
Yeah,
it
we
used
used
to
to
be.
make up games all the
Oh
time
yeah. Uh-huh.
outside playing. You made up stuff. I mean, Cowboys and Indians wasn't
Yep.
the only thing we played. We made up stuff. We were,
Yeah.
we did whatever. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of kids nowadays don't have that broad imagination because we were forced to make stuff up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Parents would kick you outside and go play outside. Like,
Yeah. Play
okay,
outside, leave me alone.
it wasn't even like a question. Like, you try it now, and like my kids will fight me tooth and nail almost. Like, I don't want to go outside. Like, that's where the sun lives. Like, no, that's okay. Go outside.
Yeah.
Me
Get
saying
some
this is
vitamin
the
D.
right. Me saying this is the complete total introvert now, and I love being at home now. But, yeah, it's hard to. Luckily, my kids are still pretty imaginative, but it's not quite the same, as you would develop that imagination going outside and playing like we used to when we were kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they have imagination in different ways, like you said,
Oh
because
yeah.
of video games and stuff like they think that way creatively, but
No.
we were more entertainment. We had to entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
We didn't have all the gadgets to entertain us. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's another thing too. Like kids nowadays, like I think my youngest, if we don't have something lined up for her almost every hour of the day, she's like, I'm bored. Like, go do something. Like you have so
Yeah.
much stuff. Go entertain. Like this is the foreign concept of entertaining yourself. Like, what is that?
Reading a
It's
book. Yeah.
crazy, right?
Hmm.
Oh, I could go on for days about getting my kids to read books. Ugh, it's they think it's the
Yeah, I
absolute
would kill for 2 hours just to sit down and read a book.
right? Yeah, well,
Yeah.
my kids will be like, "Oh, reading is so boring." I'm like, then get a different book, man. Like if you think reading's boring, you're reading the wrong stuff. Like seriously.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, I don't know how that went from favorite decade to talking about kids these days, but
I don't know. That's okay.
that's okay. Lots of tangents sometimes, and that just happens, and that's okay.
Yep.
All right. So the next thing I want to ask is, the concept of the show Fueled by Weird is all the hobbies, interests, and stuff that you're into come together and make you who you are as a person. So what I want to know is what kind of hobbies, what kind of interests do you have?
I have a lot of hobbies and interests. My husband and we like to go hiking a lot. We like to go hiking at different
Nice.
national parks and that kind of thing.
That's cool.
I do a lot of photography. I
Oh,
love
nice.
taking picture of nature. Um, the one that people are surprised by is though I'm really into astronomy.
Oh,
I have my own telescope
that's cool.
and I take pictures of the moon, the stars, the planets, even the
That's
sun. I
really
got a
cool.
filter so I can take pictures of the sun.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm like, so it's funny because the other night, there was a full moon, and my husband's like, the full moon's out. I'm like, oh, so at like 11 o'clock at night, I'm setting up my telescope, getting my phone out, and yeah, got some good pictures of Saturn. Saturn and Jupiter are my favorite planets to take pictures of.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, yeah, I've been known to go to bed and set my alarm for like 2 in the morning to get up for an eclipse
That's
or
cool.
that's when Saturn's going to be up or
Yeah,
Mars or whatever. And yeah, so people are surprised, but yeah, that's my biggest hobby. I love it.
that's really cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, photography is awesome. I used to be a big photographer, especially in high school. Um,
hmm
I don't know kind of where I fell off on that, but that was something I used to love doing. That's really
Oh
cool.
yeah. Yeah, I did too. I've actually had a couple of pictures I had printed on canvas and hanging on the wall.
Oh, that's
And I've had a
awesome.
couple people say, "Where did you buy that?" And I'm like, "Well, I took that picture." And I actually have friends that went to the so the website I ordered it on, when you order it, they send you like a little picture of it on the back with a code number, like a
Okay.
SKU number type thing.
Mhm.
So people can actually go to the website and reorder your prints.
Wow, that's
So I
weird.
have friends that have gone and ordered and hang it in their house, and it's a picture I took, and it's like,
That's awesome.
yeah. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
I love photography. I have a second cousin that's a professional photographer, and
That's
every
cool.
once in a while he'll tell me he's like, "Oh my God, that's a cool picture," and I'm like, I feel like I'm like a pro because he thinks it looks good, and it's like and people ask me like, "What kind of camera do you use?" I'm like, "It's my phone." Like I don't have a camera.
Yeah.
I just use my phone. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember back when I was in high school, we had these really nice digital cameras and taking pictures on my phone now, the pictures are almost as good a quality, if not better. And it's
I
crazy how far
know.
along that technology's come.
Well, and you don't need lenses
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. You just literally whip it out and do it. That's how I take them with my telescope. I literally put my phone up to the eyepiece and just take a picture.
that's really cool.
So yeah,
Very,
I
very
got some
cool.
pictures. I'll send them to you.
Nice. Awesome. I'm excited.
I got some good ones of Saturn last week. So yeah,
That's cool. I'm excited
yeah. My
now.
goal is to someday get a better telescope so I can get more deep space photos. I'm on a couple groups on Facebook about photography, and I'm just like, I have like telescope envy because they get such better pictures. And I'm like, oh, if I just had a stronger telescope. But, I mean, I've upgraded. This is my third one I've owned, and every time I get a stronger and stronger one. So it's getting better. But yeah, someday I will have one of the good ones. Yeah.
Very cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, I want to talk to you today about voiceover. So the voiceover, I've seen a lot of your stuff. Well, I went to your website, I kind of perused around, did my homework, and I've seen that you've done quite a bit of voiceover work. So what I want to know is what was it initially that got you interested in voiceover in the first place?
Well, it's funny because I started with theater and I didn't start acting till I was an adult. In high school, I would go to the play auditions and I'd sit in the back and chicken out. I'd see other people and I'm like, I can't be any better than them, and I'd leave.
Yeah, I get
So
that.
as an adult, I decided I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to take an acting class. So I did. And I got cast in the first audition I did, and I just
That's
haven't
cool.
stopped since.
Nice.
So I was doing a play so I played a woman that she played herself, and I was myself, and I was a fake character that she makes up to try and scare people off.
Hmm.
And they needed a recording of this fake character. And they were like, "Do you mind doing it?" And I'm like, "Well, no, this be fun." So I was in the booth, and doing the recording, and it was a lot of fun. And I thought, well, I can do this. So I took a voiceover class and just started doing it. Just like acting, I took one class and just kept going. And I've actually did it for another play I was in a couple years later. We had to do the same thing where we needed a voice. So I got to do it and I just love it. I mean, I built this booth in my house. My door's open, but I built this booth and I've added on to it a couple times and I just love it because I can sit here in a t-shirt and flip-flops or no shoes and just record.
There you
And I've
go.
had a lot of fun doing it.
Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of the beauty of kind of doing things from home. You can kind of get away with that kind of stuff. I know I work from home and a lot of the days I just am walking around barefoot in my downstairs office because you can. And it's why
Yeah.
not? You got to make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, and I still have a day job. I work from home too. I've worked from home since 2008.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's been nice that I can do, if I get an audition, my work desk is right back there. So it's like I just walk in here, do an audition, and go back to work. And I have lights and stuff over here right outside to do videos because I do acting videos, I do commercials and TV too. So it's been great that I can just do everything from home.
That is pretty convenient.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're getting ready to play a character, whether you're going to play, a voice for something or you're actually going to act in something,
Mhm.
what is your process to get ready to play the character? Do you have like a certain like step
Mm.
by step you go through, or how do you prepare yourself?
Well, the first thing I have to do is read the whole script because I can't, I have to know where I'm going to end up so I know where to start, if that
Sure.
makes any sense.
Mhm.
Because you have to have an arc somewhere in there. And a lot of it is in the story, but then a lot of it also is in the character. So I read through the whole thing and then I try to find ways to connect to the person because like try to find something that's similar that I've experienced that can relate to them. And Julia was easy to do that with. But I kind of like try to get a feel for the person. I try to imagine, especially if it's in a different era, like, the 1900s. I did a play in the 1900s. What would it be
Yeah.
like to be a woman in the 1900s? So I try to do a little research on the era, as well as if it's a real person, obviously you can look them up and find out information.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of it too is talking to the other actors about their characters. A lot of it, especially in plays, you do a lot of character development. Like some plays you just make like a backstory for your character. Or one of them we did was really fun. They had us write as our character a letter to someone else in the play, character to character. And so I had a mother-in-law to be and a fiance in the play. So I wrote it to my future mother-in-law. But it gives you, and then you sit there and read them to each other, and kind of gives you a background of people, and you make up a history. So that's where I start. And then, like I said, I try to find a connection. And with that connection, I use my experience and try to translate it for this other person. Because acting, it's a lot of your own history that you use to act. Voice acting, on stage, on TV, whatever. You bring that with you, so you have to use it.
Sure.
And it makes it easier.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So one of your main parts that I know you well from is the podcast Oakridge. It's
Hmm.
something I learned about when I connected with Ashley Dean on Threads, of all places, because it was a social media app that was like, I have so many apps. I don't need any more social media apps. And I
Yeah.
heard Threads was kind of a bummer. And then after a while, I'm like, I heard some really good things about it. So I go to try it out, and then I end up meeting Ashley Dean there. She tells
Hmm.
me about her podcast, Oakbridge, and I binged the entire first season very quickly. It was such a great show. Like we mentioned kind of before, I'm very excited to be in season two. I'm very excited to hear you in season two because your character was just so incredible from the first season. I kind of want to know, not kind of, I would like to know. Uh, let's hear from you. I usually ask this of everybody, and
Okay.
it's funny because I hear a little bit different from everybody when I ask this particular question that I've
Okay.
talked to from Oakbridge so far. I want to know, in your words, what is the show about to you?
Wow. What is the show about to me? Um, that's
Well,
a good question.
I guess really in your own words, what would you, if someone's going to ask you what's
What's it
Oakbridge
about?
about? Yeah, what would you say?
It's a sci-fi mystery, but it's also, to me, it's also about community because everyone pulls together in this. And it's family, it's community, and it's still, but it's sci-fi mystery. Like I have a friend that he loves sci-fi mystery, and I said, listen to it. I said, be honest with me. And he loved it. And I thought I wasn't sure if he would, but he really liked it. And he's also looking forward to season two. But I don't know, it's sci-fi mystery. I mean, that's what it's, advertised as, but there's a lot of community in it. There's the kids, the school, you know, Julia's father is the sheriff and her ex-husband works for him. Like there's all these different paths it could take because of all the connections that people have in it.
Hmm.
And I just think it's a fun show. And I think anyone would like it, whether they like sci-fi or mystery or anything. I think it's good for anybody.
I agree. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying before, where, it's back in that time really before technology when people actually got out and talked to their neighbors and know who their neighbors were and everyone
Hmm.
kind of looked out for each other, kind of back to a simpler time. Now
Yeah.
that's one aspect I really kind of liked about it, just the fact that it took place in the 90s, back before technology was really big and you actually had to go out and talk to people. So that was kind of cool because, you don't really get that as much anymore. You don't really have that kind of community in your own neighborhood even. Or like I know I've lived in my current house for 9 years and I have a neighbor on the other side that I've never really even talked to more than two or three times. And the only reason I know the neighbor on the other side is because they have a kid that's the exact same age as my youngest. So that's kind of how we are talking. But other than that, I don't really know any neighbors in my neighborhood. So it's
Yeah.
weird how things change like that.
Yeah, and growing up, like we knew everybody on our street, let
Yeah.
alone the people that lived right next door to us. And there were probably
Hmm.
25 houses on the street, and we knew everybody. So, yeah, it's kind of neat to go back to that time. And there were some things we had to work on because James and I found out something in the script that didn't exist yet.
Oh.
It was so we were like writing it on the fly. Ashley approved it. Don't freak out. But we
Okay.
rewrote a section of it, and then even after it had started coming out, they came to me. I think 4 episodes had been released, and I got an email from James going, "Oh my God, we have to redo a section of like episode 6," and it was like 2 lines, but it was that same thing of if you don't look at the history, you don't like it. It was about technology, about when it came out, and this
Yeah.
was set like 2 years before the technology we referred to had come out, so we had to fix it.
Oh shoot.
So, and I grew up in, I mean, I'm old. So, I mean, I graduated high school in the 80s. So I know the 90s, but I don't remember what year this happened or that happened with technology. I just know it was in
Right.
that 10-year span. So, yeah, it was interesting to do that. And then we were literally on Google looking it up to see when it actually came out. And we were like, oh, we got to do something. We got to change it. So it was really kind of neat to go back to that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hmm.
So with the show, how did you end up getting in contact with Ashley to be a part of the show?
I saw a post, and it's funny, I can't remember where I saw it, but there was just a post about auditions, and so I auditioned, and Julia was the only part I read for. I thought about trying to do one of the kids because I can do different voices and stuff.
Mhm.
Not a lot, but I can do them.
Sure.
Um, and so, but Julia kind of, once I read her description, I was in. I was like, she would be the only part I would want to do. And actually they did Murphy's Law. I don't know if you listened to that podcast. They
I
did that
haven't I
before
haven't yet.
Oakbridge.
I've heard of it, but I haven't yet.
Yeah, and I haven't listened to it, but they actually reached out to me and said, "We have this character in Murphy's Law and we need a voice. Can you just do it real quick?" So I've gotten other things just from knowing Ashley and
That's
James
cool.
and working with them on Oakbridge and of course season 2. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's very cool. So
Yeah.
when you read the description for Julie, how did you find the character? Like, did you pull from any inspiration from anywhere? To just kind of get the feel of Julia. How'd that go?
Yeah, well, it's not a spoiler because the whole season's out. So Julia's divorced, and like I said, her ex-husband works with her dad, Jack. Jack works with her dad, and I've actually been divorced twice. And I know what it's like to not work with my ex, but run into them, have to
Mhm.
spend time with them. So and her and Jack have a good relationship. I mean, they had some issues, but they've kind of worked through them. So I kind of pulled from that, just having been divorced. And she's married now in Oakbridge, but she's struggling. So I've been there, obviously, if I've been
Sure.
divorced. So I
Yeah.
kind of could feel what she felt like having to deal with all that. And it wasn't too hard actually to think about and to find her. There were a couple scenes that was a little harder to do. I don't have children. I've never had children, so that part of her, I had to kind of find myself. I have nieces and stuff like that, but that part, the motherly, the vice principal, worried about all the kids. Not that I'm not worried about people, but that was
Right.
a little harder. But the
Yeah.
divorce part and the, dealing with the ex, talking through the year past with the ex and all that kind of stuff was pretty natural to me, unfortunately. So, yeah, she was fun though. There's different nuances to her I'm finding.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like asking that question, just to kind of hear where, because I mean, the characters are so, it almost feels like they're real, and you guys do a really good job of like putting this emotion and this feeling into them. Because I talked to Connor Howard, and he kind of gave me the inspiration behind where he found Jack from, and with you and Julia, it's just really cool to hear those stories of how your guys' process and how you're able to find these characters, and a lot of it's drawn from real life, which I think is really cool.
And I think it makes it easier when it's drawn from real life.
Oh,
I
for
mean, it's
sure.
easier to go there, right?
Hmm.
And I know Connor had a big scene, when he talks about his past and losing
Oh, woof.
people. I actually watched your interview with him and I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Because we don't know how
Yeah.
everyone else does this because it was literally just me and James on the internet recording my lines. So you're not in a room with the other actors doing it. You're not hearing everyone else's lines. So us listening to it, that's the first time I heard everyone else's voices. Like you're not in a room. Now I've done other podcasts and webisodes like that where we're in the same room and you're literally feeding off each other. You're standing right next to the people you're talking to. So
Yeah.
it's different, but they both work out well. I mean, James has a good ear and he knows, if I'm doing it in a certain tone and he needs it in a different tone of voice because he's heard Connor's or, another character's voice for that scene, then he gets you there. And he's really good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's funny when, when I met Connor, I did not expect him to be as young as he was. Just
I
hearing
know.
hearing Jack's voice, I was like, there's no way.
Yeah. His voice
So,
doesn't go with his face. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I was thinking like, Jack, he's for the voice of Jack, it must be something he pulls from somewhere, or maybe that, he's just an older guy and that's his voice. But no, he's pretty young and that's his regular voice, really. I mean, he
Yeah.
kind of pitches it down a little bit to be Jack, but other than that, it's him. And I was just blown away. It was kind of incredible.
Yeah, he already has a kind of low register, but he does go
Yeah.
deeper, like down in his chest almost when he does Jack. Because it is,
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell it's him, but yeah, Jack's a little bit deeper and gruffer. Like there's a
Yeah.
little edge to him. Yeah.
Yeah, when he switched from Connor to Jack, I was just like, holy cow. It was incredible. Um,
Yeah.
so speaking of Oakbridge, and I've mentioned I've been able to chat with a few other people from the show. I did recently talk to the audio wizard, Mr. Joe Bly.
Okay.
And I haven't ever done this before, but I did get some audience questions for this episode.
Oh.
So first up is Mr. Joe Bly. He, when I told him I was going to be chatting with you, he was very excited. He said you're going to love Monica, but I want you to ask her about
Uh-oh.
jam jams. And he said you would know what I was talking about. And he wanted us to
Oh
talk
my
about jam
God.
jams.
I hate the word jam jams. Thanks, Joe. Um, there's this scene where Julia and David want to talk to the kids, and we tell them to go put on their jam jams. I don't know how many times I had to record that dang line. I'm like, can we just call them PJs or pajamas or something else? Uh, yeah, jam jams. Thanks, Ashley. Um,
That's
I could
incredible.
not say it like normal. It was like jam jams. Oh my God, it was awful. Think we need outtakes for Oakbridge. We need to just do an episode of outtakes because I'm sure we all had them.
There you
Um,
go.
but yeah, I've never called them jam jams, and I never will again if I don't have to. But yeah, that was a fun one to do because we went back and forth and back and forth. It was awful. Yeah.
I'm sorry that I'm laughing. It's just so funny.
No, you have
I
to.
know it was horrible, but oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ugh.
So next audience questions is Ashley Dean, the creator of Oakbridge, for those who don't know.
Hmm.
She submitted a couple questions that she wanted to be included in our talk.
Okay.
So the first question Ashley had was, who do you think Jack loved more, Julia or Amy, and why, in your opinion? Oh, hold on. Okay, so sorry, I was reading them together. There's two questions.
Okay.
First
So
one, who do you think Jack loved more, Julia or Amy?
that's a toughie.
Yeah,
Who do I think he loved more? Oh, I'm gonna throw her a curve. I think he loved. I think he had a son. Oh my God, it's terrible. He had a
he
son,
did. Hmm.
and
I don't remember his name, but he had one.
I don't either. That's terrible. I know I should remember it. Um, I think in different ways, I think he loved them both equally. I think Amy gave him a son, obviously, and they had a good connection. But I think the first love, I think Julia was his first love. I think that was when they both fell hard and they were just too young. And with him going off to war, it just didn't work out. But yeah, I'd have to give them equal.
I think, my opinion was not asked at all in this, but I think I'd agree with you. Like you said, the first love, you never forget your first love. And that
Hmm.
is something that, sometimes takes a long time to get over. And, with Amy, she was the mother to his child. Um, so yeah, I agree with you. I think
I
that's a
think
good
they're
answer.
different types of love,
Yeah,
but
I agree.
yeah. So there, Ashley.
Okay, so Ashley, second question is, in your opinion, why did Julia never go to see Jack after he moved back to Oakbridge, even though she knew why he moved back?
Oh, why didn't she go see him? I think there might be a few reasons why Julie didn't go see him. I think one is they had never talked about what happened, and they do in the first season. They do have that trip to Cincinnati, and they actually talk it through. And I think she was afraid that he would confront her about it, and they actually did. They talked it through, and they both had differing opinions of what happened, and they finally got to see each other's side of it. So I think she avoided him for that reason. But I also think because of the troubles in her marriage with David, I think she still has feelings for Jack and afraid to see him and bring that up while she's dealing with David. Like she needs to deal with one guy at a time,
Oh yeah.
and just see what happens with David before she can deal with Jack. And her hand was forced. She had to talk to Jack.
Yeah, and I mean, with kind of the way they broke up or they got divorced, there was already some bad feelings there. And,
Hmm.
with him coming back after what happened, I would imagine that not only would she be hesitant to go talk about it because she wouldn't know whether or not Jack's in a headspace that he wants to talk about what happened, she
Hmm.
probably still thinks that Jack is mad at her for whatever reason for when they got divorced.
Right.
So that on top of, what you said, she's already going through some stuff on her own and she just doesn't have the bandwidth to deal with, being a mother, being a vice principal and trying to deal with her own marriage. That's a lot of stuff already you have to deal with. You can't really make time for extracurriculars such as going to back and talking to your ex. So
Right.
that
Right.
that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, with
One fight at a time.
yeah, right. And with
Yep.
her and Jack kind of heading to Cincinnati, that finally gave them the time to, all right, we're gonna focus, we're gonna talk about this stuff, we're gonna talk about the elephant in the room. And I think they might have even said something about like that, where they've just got all this stuff that needs to be addressed that's never been addressed, and now they have all this time to address it.
And it's funny when they do address it, you realize when you're listening to it that the reason they broke up with it was a misunderstanding.
Oh yeah.
They didn't understand each other, and instead of talking it through, they just went, "I'm out,"
Yep.
and they got divorced. And it happens. It happens to a lot of people.
Oh
Like I said, I've been divorced. I know there's misunderstandings. But unfortunately, they didn't talk to each other when it happened. They just kind of blamed it on the situation that they were both confused about and just walked away. So,
yeah.
yeah,
And
I'm
100%,
glad they talked about it.
100% she's still in love with Jack. I
Oh,
100%,
I think she is. Yeah.
100% believe it.
Yep, I do too.
All right. So in addition to Oakbridge, what
hmm
other stuff do you have coming up that you want to talk about or that you're able to talk about?
I don't have anything else coming up. I just recently did a film and a TV commercial. Um, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't have anything else coming up. Um, Everything I've had scheduled has already been done. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Oakbridge Podcast. I do have other podcasts or they call them webisodes that I did, or audio dramas, whatever you want to call them. So
Mhm.
I've done several of those in the past, but yeah, Oakbridge is all I have. I think they hinted at maybe something else for Murphy's Law coming up. They might have a part for me in that, but I don't know for sure. And I'd love to do any of it. But yeah, I've got auditions out there. I'm just waiting to hear.
Very cool.
Mhm.
All right. Now, before I let you go, I usually like to try to ask this of everyone that comes on my show.
Okay.
Do you have a bit of advice that you would want to share with fellow creatives out there?
Mm.
And
Don't
if
give
it's
up.
more than one, that's okay.
Yeah, my main thing is don't give up. I mean, I didn't start acting till I was in my 30s probably, and there are times when I say I'm not doing this anymore. I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere, but I love it too much. If you love it, keep doing it. Um, like I said, I have a day job. I would love to leave my day job. If I could do this enough to, live on, that's everyone's dream, I think, as an actor
Sure,
or a voice
sure.
actor. Um, but yeah, the only other thing I would say is don't stop learning because I still take classes, even though I get pretty regular jobs. I have at least 3 or 4 a month, which isn't a lot, but it's something.
Yeah.
But I still take classes. I still take voiceover classes. I'm in a couple voiceover groups. I have a voiceover accountability group that we meet every other week. Like, you can't stop learning. You have to
Yeah.
keep, especially with the technology nowadays. There's so much, that changes with all of this. Now I do all my auditions here. You don't have to go somewhere and have an audition. You don't have to do it live. I've had callbacks on Zoom just like this. You don't have to show up, and then you show up on set and you meet finally meet everybody. You're there for a couple hours and you leave.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't give up and just keep learning because you never know. You just never know when going to meet the right people. And I met someone I met a couple people at this film I was in. I was one part in one scene, but they're looking at doing a bunch more movies, and they said, "Well, maybe we'll give you a bigger part next time." I said, "Well, that'd be nice." So, yeah, just put yourself out there. It's worth it.
That is good advice. And also like your advice about, if you like doing it, don't stop doing it regardless of how it ends up. Because, my friend that I mentioned that is going to be in season two that we got cast together, he always talks about how he has a podcast of his own, and he always talks about how I like doing podcasting, but I'm going to keep doing it as long as I like doing it. And as soon as, I don't like doing it, that, as soon as it's not fun anymore, that's when you need to stop doing it. When it
Right.
becomes more of a job or more work than, it is fun. And that's always a good advice really to apply to anything really where, you know, if you're gonna do something and your intention is to do it to make money or to get famous or to get popular, you're not doing it for the right reason. You need to do it because you enjoy doing it, regardless of, how many likes or views or shares or whatever, because social media just is the pits sometimes anyways. And
Yeah.
it's hard to get traction on stuff. And so you just got to just do it. And if your heart's not in it and you're not liking what you're doing, then that's going to reflect to the other people you're sharing your stuff with.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's super
Definitely.
important to, regardless of how it turns out to make sure you do it, just because you like doing it, and they should not give up. That's good advice.
And you can step away from it. Like I've done theater for 27 years, and I did a show last year and I said that's my last one. Like because it takes up 3 months of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not on Broadway. I'm not making the big bucks. So I decided to cut theater out and just concentrate on TV, film, commercials, and voiceovers because those 3 months I was in rehearsals and shows, I was so afraid I'd get that big movie or TV show that I'd have to say no because I'm committed to a show. So find what you love and just keep doing it. I mean, I might not ever be able to quit my day job and be a full-time actor, but I'm loving it. I'm making money at it and I'm having fun. And there's nothing more important than having fun.
Absolutely.
Gotta have fun with it.
Absolutely. All right. So before I let you go, I want to
Yeah.
give you a chance to tell everyone where we can find you, where we can keep up to date on stuff you're doing, we can check out stuff that you've done. Where can we find you?
I'm in a lot of places. I'm on Facebook. I have Instagram, TikTok. I don't do TikTok as much as I used to, but I have Instagram. I have a website, but yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Monica Wolfkill. Um, Monica Wolfkill VO is my Instagram. And yeah, I'm hoping this movie comes out soon. I'll let you know.
Perfect.
So
Very
yeah,
cool. All
and
right.
I'm on imdb.com too.
Perfect. And I'll
I do
make
have a profile
you
there.
do you have a website that we can check out too? Or did you say that already?
I have a website. It's monicawolfkillvo.com.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to stick the notes or the website in the notes so people can go check you out.
Well, thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Now, for me, I first like to thank the band Polygon Horizon. Their song Pizza Force is the theme song of the show. Go check them out on Bandcamp. They're a great band. You can check me out on Instagram and Facebook, just at Fueled by Weird. You can also shoot me a line at fueledbyweird@gmail.com. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can also find me on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts, just at Fueled by Weird. And you can also find me on the Spotlight Media GA app, along with the rest of the Stay Weird Network shows, the Nerdy Manroom show with Hassel and Monster, Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. Speaking of Stay Weird Network, it's a brand new podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. Check us out at Stay Weird Media on YouTube and Instagram, and check us out, or you can send us an email at stayweirdmedia@gmail.com. Or Stay Weird, yeah, Stay Weird Media. Uh, our sponsors are the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia, your one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more. I want to thank them as sponsors of the show. And if you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, life is too short to be normal, so stay weird. Monica, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Chris. It was fun.